Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. I've decided today, since it's mid-May by now, close to mid-May, it's time to start giving college football predictions for all the football teams going into 2024. I'm going to start with Florida State. Florida State lost pretty much their whole team this past year to the draft and the transfer portal. They went and got DJ Uyunglele among a lot of other high talented players. And DJ, yeah, he is a player that at times has struggled at Clemson. And even at Oregon State, he still did have a lot of the same tendencies. He did throw 7 interceptions this past year. He had 21 touchdown passes, but he did turn the ball over quite a bit. And now he's not turnover prone like Cade Klubnik from Clemson, but in big time moments, he hasn't really shined. The question is, can he fix that this year with Mike Norvell, with a third head coach? I'll tell you later in the video. You first start off with Georgia Tech in Ireland. There's a lot of pressure on Florida State to win this game. They got embarrassed in their last game, in their bowl game. They have a whole new team now. They're clearly a more talented team on paper right now than Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech is a program that I was really impressed with last year, simply because they hadn't had a winning season. They were 7-6. I know it doesn't sound good, but think about it. That was a program that wasn't winning much at all. And they finished 7-6. They were a really good run team, a real tough football team, very tough to deal with. They found ways to beat ranked North Carolina, ranked Miami at the time. They did go 7-6 and win the Gasparilla Bowl over UCF. And they're not elite, but they're a program that's clearly headed up. And that's really good. And if you had to look at any glaring weakness, which was very hard to find in Florida State's defense this past year, because again, remember, they're getting a lot of new pieces on that defense. But if you had to look at any, you had to look at the run defense. It struggled against Duke. It struggled against Miami at some point. It did struggle against Florida for a while. And when I say struggle, I don't mean you getting pushed around the whole game. Florida State and their defense, that's what they're known for, not getting pushed around. They did have a championship level defense, but they were a bend don't break. And unfortunately, that bend led to a lot of big gains given up on the ground through running. So that concerns me if I like Florida State. I think Georgia Tech is going to look to exploit that. And they're tough on the line of scrimmage. They're not the most talented, but they're tough to deal with. You can ask Georgia. Georgia had a hard time playing them last year. That's what it is. I'm going to go with Florida State to win 31-24. And DJ Uyunglele has struggled in the last 2 games. I don't think he'll struggle this game. I think he'll do a great job at taking care of the football. He'll be able to throw better. I believe he'll be able to keep himself from fumbling. I believe Florida State's going to be better. But because Georgia Tech is going to be inspired to play hard in this game, they're going to keep it close. Florida State's first game together as a team, because again, their whole team is basically gone. But Florida State finds a way to win a hard-earned big win over Georgia Tech, 31-24. Moving on to next week, they host Boston College. They struggled last year. I think they'll struggle a little bit, but I still think Florida State's just a better program. They're a better football team. Boston College, their offense was very explosive last year. They were a really good running team as well. And they had a dual-threat quarterback that can run really good, and he had a pretty good arm. But Boston College's defense was just so bad. I think Boston College will have a decent year, but Florida State's not going to be the team they make an example out of. I got Florida State winning 34-17. I think Florida State's defense will make plays to help them pull away. They'll force a few turnovers. I think Florida State will lean on the running game, which was not very good last year. But because they have DJ, who really can run really good and is hard to tackle at times, they're going to lean on him, Toafili, and whoever else plays running back this year. So Florida State should win comfortably, not 50-0 like that, because I don't think Boston College is a pushover. I just think Florida State's better. That's all I'm saying. No disrespect to BC. They're off the following week, and then after they host Memphis. Memphis has been a pretty good football team. That's where Mike Norvell came from. So here it is. Memphis is going to Tallahassee. They're going to be inspired to play in Tallahassee, and they'll be outmatched in Tallahassee. Give me Memphis to lose 41-16 to Florida State. Florida State's defense is going to start playing better together. They will have had 2 previous games to really feel themselves out and figure themselves out. They'll start to establish an identity of winning the line of scrimmage, forcing turnovers, and not letting people move the ball them like they did last year, even though they were a really good defense still. 41-16, I think Memphis will just be outmatched and overpowered by Florida State's talent and superior players. And Not Norvell, he's petty. He's real smart. He's a good coach. So, there's a part of him that wants to beat his old team just to stick it to him. Like, yeah, look what you're missing out on. So, Florida State should win comfortably. And then they host Cal. This is an interesting game because, look, Cal has never really been good. They are coming off a 6-7 season. They did make a bowl game, and they have a really good running game there. Their defense is really tough and stingy. I think this is the game that Florida State could trip up and lose. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they're going to win this game at home. But it's going to be by a touchdown. They'll win 24-17. This will be the game that Florida State, they're coming off a big Memphis win. They're 3-0. They're feeling hot. They're undefeated. Probably be in the top, somewhere between the top 15, top 10 right now. Cal is going to go in there and play really hard. They're going to be inspired to play. This is the ACC champion that they're facing. Nobody's giving them a chance. I think Florida State is just better. I think Cal's offense is going to be way too one-dimensional. I think they're going to rely on the running game. But I think Cal's defense keeps Florida State's offense from pushing them around like they want. Give me Florida State 24-17 to win this game. It will be a physical, tough game. And then they're at SMU. SMU is a pretty good football team. They had a lot of wins last year. Give me Florida State to win this game, 34-20. I think Florida State is still powerful. They're too powerful. I think they're just a better team. Look, Boston College beat SMU last year in their bowl game. Not really because they were better. They were just bigger and stronger. And I feel like they just won the line of scrimmage more. I think you see Florida State do the same. And I think they're just a better team versus BC just being bigger and stronger. So, give me Florida State. They're 5-0. And then they come back home and play Clemson. And people forget, I know they went 9-4. I know they lost games to Duke. They lost to Florida State last year. Think about it. Clemson has owned Florida State in the last 10 years. Outside of last year, they hadn't beaten them since 2014. Clemson has had their number. And when they played Florida State last year, when Florida State was clearly a really good team, they were pushing them around most of that game, running the football with Shipley, Mappa. The only thing that helped, Florida State didn't even get an offensive touchdown until they went into overtime because their kicker missed a field goal to win the game from. Their defense scored a scoop and score because, again, Cade Klubnik likes to turn the ball over. I think Cade Klubnik takes a big step forward. I don't think he'll be a Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson, but he'll be better than what he was. He'll still be explosive with his legs. He'll still be able to have some big plays with his arm. I think they go to Tallahassee. I think they get big payback in this game. Give me Clemson to upset Florida State. Again, in the last 10 years, they've only beaten them once. That's all I'm saying. 9 years. 10 years, they beat them twice. Last year in 2014. That's pretty bad. So, again, Dabo Swinney is out for blood. He's still petty about that fan calling in, running his mouth to him. He's won 5 games since then. He hasn't lost. While I don't think Clemson's quite good enough to beat Georgia and upset them, I think they're good enough to give them a fight. I think they beat Florida State here. Remember, Dabo Swinney knows DJ Uiagalelei. This is going to be a personal game for both parties, DJ and Dabo. But Dabo wants payback and gets it. I think Clemson gets a touchdown late in the fourth quarter to put themselves ahead. I don't think DJ Uiagalelei is going to be able to drive his team down the field and get a touchdown winning drive. I think he turns the ball over late here after having a pretty decent game anyways. And Florida State's defense doesn't make enough plays. I mean, outside of the scoop and score they had last year, they kind of got pushed around by Clemson, if I'm being honest. And Clemson's defense held that offense in check. I don't think Florida State's offense is going to be as good as it was last year with Jordan Travis. And I think Jordan's better than DJ. So give me Clemson to pull off a big win at Florida State. Then they're off, and then they go to Duke. I know Duke was pretty good the last 2 years. They got Manny Diaz from Penn State as the defensive coordinator. He's now the head coach of Duke. If you look at his time at Miami, his teams were always pretty undisciplined. Their defense was pretty good when he got there. Then he became a head coach, and you can make all the excuses you want about him being a first-year guy. He hadn't coached anywhere else. That's true. He might do better with Duke, but I don't think Duke's going to be anywhere near good enough to compete with Florida State. Give me Florida State to win 45-10. They're going to be mad about that Clemson game. They're having that bye week before that. They'll be fresh and angry, looking to take it on somebody. They're not. You know where they're not going to take it out on? At Miami. They're going to drop this game bad. Look, I know they've owned Miami the last 3 years, and I know Miami has kind of been the laughingstock in the ACC. Look at the transfer portal that they've been digging into, all the players they've been getting, not even including the recruiting class. Cam Ward from Washington State. That was Florida State's first option. It wasn't DJ. Cam Ward said no to Florida State, no to the NFL draft, and he said yes to the Hurricanes. And you forget Miami's bringing back most of that team from last year. Outside of Miami's clearly non-existent passing offense, they were a pretty good football team that could play with almost anybody. Their run game was pretty decent. Their defense was really good. Florida State had a hard time with Miami last year in Tallahassee. I think they go over there and lay a huge egg. I think DJ plays bad. I think he has at least 2 or 3 turnovers. Because again, DJ, and this answers my question that starts the video. No, I don't think he's going to be a championship quarterback. No, I don't think he's an upgrade to Jordan Travis. And no, he's going to cost, he's going to cost him some games. He's going to cost him this one too. Give me Miami to embarrass Florida State. They win the turnover battle. They pull away with DJ's mistakes, and Florida State's defense will not be able to stop Cam Ward in that running game. Because Miami has good running game too. So give me Miami to win 38-17 at home. And then they come back home and take on North Carolina. North Carolina has never beat Florida State with Mack Brown. You know that? Yeah. But because of how they lose to Miami, they pretty much know their season as far as their playoff hopes are gone at this point. They're going to struggle. They go to overtime. I think North Carolina plays better, but they're not, those teams, one team's clearly better than the other, but the team that's inferior plays a lot better than the better team. This game goes to overtime. Florida State's down at least 2 touchdowns at some point. They come back, goes to overtime. Florida State scores a touchdown and gets the extra point. North Carolina gets stopped on downs or turns the ball over in overtime. Florida State wins barely 33-27. And then they go to Notre Dame. At this point, Notre Dame's either undefeated or they've got one loss to USC somewhere. I've said it before. I think Notre Dame's a better team this year than what they've been in a long time. I love what their coach, Marcus Freeman, has been doing with the recruiting, how he's building his program and making it different. Riley Leonard was able to kind of run through Florida State last year. I expect more of the same. But Florida State's going to be inspired to play hard. And here's the thing. This brings me back to DJ. Big game moments, big time moments where the team needs him the most, he can't deliver. Throughout his career at Clemson, he lost at Notre Dame. Why? Because he couldn't make the plays to get it done. They lose to Georgia. Why? Because he can't throw good. They've lost to Pitt. Why? Because he turns the ball over so much. They lost to South Carolina a year later. Why? Same thing. And actually, he's 0-2 against Notre Dame. He's never beaten them. And he's a big part of why they lost to Notre Dame 2 years ago with Clemson. They got blown up because he turned the ball over so much. Fast forward to Oregon State. You don't believe me? Go even closer than now. Oregon State lost to Washington State because he turns the ball over. They were down a couple of scores to Washington, who went on to go to the national championship. They lost. Why? Because he can't make those plays, those throws on 4th down to give his team a chance to win those games. I don't expect that to change here. I think they lose at Notre Dame in a very tough, physical, close game. They want to now at this point they're playing spoilers, and they'll have a really good football team. I'm not saying Florida State's not good. They're a good team. Unfortunately, I think Notre Dame's a better team, and they're at home. Give me Notre Dame to win the turnover battle and be able to win 24-17. And then they're off again. Florida State gets 3 bye weeks this year, by the way, guys. They come back home to Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston Southern, They win, 55-17. And then they come back home and they play Florida. At this point, Billy Napier's fighting for his job. Or he's already gone. Florida's actually hit the transfer portal. They've gotten them some good players. So I think they'll be a lot better. But because Billy Napier doesn't know what he's doing, shout out to Uncle Lou, I'm quoting you. And I think Florida State is still a better program overall than Florida. But because it's such a hate game and Florida plays them good here in Tallahassee a lot, give me Florida State to win barely 35-20. Florida's run defense has not been fixed in ever, and I don't think it will be now. DJ can play like trash in his game. They'll still win because of FSU's superior run game and FSU's actual defense, something Florida doesn't have. So give me Florida State to win 35-20. Now, in best case scenario, I think Florida State beats Clemson, and I think they beat Miami, not because they're really better, but because, I think it might be better than Clemson. If they play their best game, they should beat Clemson. But they beat Miami because Miami's coach, Mario Cristobal, is not very good at making good decisions. He likes to make a lot of dumb calls. I'm not calling him stupid, but I'm saying the decisions he makes sometimes are not very bright. Look at the Georgia Tech game. Look at how Miami likes to turn the ball over a lot with Van Dyke, who clearly played good in his freshman year, and he hasn't been the same since. Look at how games that Miami has lost. Now, personally, I just think Miami's about to take it to the next level because of what they've got there. So it wouldn't matter if he was a bad coach or not. But what I'm saying is Norvell's a better coach than Cristobal, obviously. So Florida State could win that game. They could beat Clemson. I still think either, regardless of how good they are this year, they do lose at Notre Dame. And just because DJ's 0-2, he's about to be 0-3 against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a hard game to win anyway, especially over there in South Bend. I mean, you usually don't beat them over there. So with that being said, I think Florida State's going to be 9-3. They could win 10 or more games, but I just don't think so. I mean, it's hard to replace what defense Florida State had last year, and it's going to be really hard to replicate, if not outdo, what Florida State's offense did with Jordan Travis. I still think DJ is a downgrade at that position. So, all right, that's just how I feel, and it's hard to replicate that. So that's pretty much it for now. I'll see y'all later.